When you've made a habit for over 10 years, breaking that habit is not an overnight thing.
At that point where I sat down with myself and had the hard conversations with me, and acknowledged my weaknesses, acknowledged my toxic traits, acknowledged the things that were very painful for me to say, but Ali, this is just not right.
Hello everybody, this is Covenant Union with Ray
and Ali.
This is a podcast about marriage, parenting and Christian living. Coming into the marriage, there's always things that we come with, habits and ideas and things that we learned from maybe our parents or from movies or whatever. We always walk into the marriage with these things, and sometimes these habits can be very detrimental to the marriage, to the relationship. And it is important for us to find those habits, figure out how we got them, find out how we can get rid of them, just so that we can live harmoniously. I have been blessed with a wife that has pointed out some of these habits, and it makes you reflect on your life and reflect on the things that you do in the relationship. And I know that it helps a lot for someone to point them out, but it's important for us to self-reflect and see where you're going wrong.
I think that's the biggest part of the puzzle. When you start, for me personally, I've always thought that at that point where I sat down with myself and had the hard conversations with me, and acknowledged my weaknesses, acknowledged my toxic traits, acknowledged the things that were very painful for me to say, but Ali, this is just not right. You can't keep going this way. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep... That is when I realized, okay, now you've grown. You've actually grown.
How far back was that?
About 4 years ago, I think it's when I started on that journey. And you know, it happens in bits. Okay, for me, it happened in bits. And and it's a never-ending journey as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Because there are things about us that forever need to evolve. There's a lot of unlearning, relearning that has to happen in this process. And you just have to be open to it. It's the only way we get better, I believe.
That's true. What are some of those things that you found out about yourself?
For me, one of the very first things I had to teach myself was getting off social media. I still do social media, but my life literally revolved around Facebook and WhatsApp statuses. So it got to a point where that's how I vented. That's how I expressed myself. And I know so many people that express themselves that way. And that is all right. My problem was every time we had a fight, instead of coming to you with this conversation, or a disagreement, instead of coming to you with this conversation and saying, hey, look, this and this has made me feel this way, and I think I would take it all out on Facebook or on WhatsApp, and then I started to have those conversations with myself, like, Ali, no, this is just toxic. So you're telling the world, what are they supposed to do about? How are they supposed to fix this problem for you? And it's one of the very first, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the very first conversation I had with myself, that self-analysis of, this is wrong, this is just wrong.
I think many of us have fallen prey to social media venting. And I recognized when you stopped, and boy was I glad. Because sometimes you're walking out there like, now what did she do? What did you do to her?
And sometimes it's actually very unrelated. But because even people get used to you doing that, you'll be talking about something super random. And someone will be like, no,
what has happened?
Raymond is getting it. And that's just a bad image to carry around.
Exactly. And you know, sometimes you're saying, like you said, Raymond is getting it. And the truth is, sometimes your spouse is not getting it at all. You're not communicating the problem. Everyone else knows there's a problem with him. and he has no idea.
I have a friend, one of our bridesmaids, who that is how she expresses herself. So she's a beautiful storyteller, and like she's my go-to place when I need to breathe and laugh and just hear someone else's story.
Yeah.
And if you don't realize that she's just sharing her day and just, you could very easily think, my God, this girl's life. Like there's always something going on. And usually it's something she has seen somewhere and
she just decides to share it. Yes.
But if you don't know her like that, it's very easy to think, hey.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about social media. It takes out of the relationship, the core relationship. Because it allows people to think about you the way they want to think about you and not to understand exactly who you are. And that is...
You sort of give them the right to make whatever opinions they want.
Yeah.
And you're giving them all this armor.
Yes.
And ammunition to use against you.
Yes, and to use against you in their minds.
Yes.
That's the most disturbing part of it all. I'm so glad you came out of that.
I'm glad I did too. I find that I have peace.
Oh, that's nice.
I find that for me now my place of venting is prayer.
It's a beautiful place.
And by the time I'm done talking to God and the Holy Spirit about something, usually there's a peace. Even when I don't have the answers, even when I'm still mad, there's this peace.
Yeah.
That surpasses all understanding.
Yeah, exactly. You can't understand it. Well, I think if I was to share one of the habits I know I came with, at the top of my list is going to be financial indiscipline. Because I was always alone. I could go out and drink whenever I wanted to. I could do whatever I wanted to. And when a problem comes, I could sit on it for so long, just looking at it until I figure it out one way or the other. So it was always that, I'll do things when and if I want. Coming into a relationship, that changes everything. It's just that I was, should I say, laissez-faire? And coming into the relationship, I realized, wow, she's always asking me about where did this money go? She's asking me about this and we need that. And it became real to me that I was indisciplined. And it took me a while because I'd been indisciplined for so long. So it took me a long time to realize that, hey, you can't keep like this. You have to have a budget. You have to sort out. You have to think about the future. You have to think about tomorrow. And you have to take care of today. And most of all, you have to forget the past. Because it can be very dragging when you look back at the wrong that you've done. Yeah. So over the years, it has taken me a long time to get into the space I'm in right now. Very long time. And I'm grateful I had that, because no matter how many times you mentioned it, it always felt like I was being attacked. And it took me to mention it to myself to realize that, hey, you need to change. There are many people depending on you.
Yeah, I was actually going to
interject
at some point and say, for me, I think my issue had always been we are depending on you to lead us, to provide for us, to protect us. So when those loopholes are there and I keep quiet, I don't think I'm doing any of us justice. Not me, not you, not the kids.
Yeah. So the thing about the communication is, when someone is in a bad habit, whether you tell them to do it, to stop doing it 100 times, 1,000,000 times, they won't until they look at themselves. It's something that I've learned.
That I guess part of the problem had been my way of communicating initially. It was never a conversation of, so this is what's wrong, and I really think we need to. It was, like you said, it was always an attack, because for me in my head, it was, how is this not obvious? Yeah. How is it not obvious that you're the head of this home and you need to get it together?
Well, I was still in the bad habit, actually. And when you've made a habit for over 10 years, breaking that habit is not an overnight thing. But when you have a conversation with yourself and you have a realization that this is just messed up, you can go cold turkey on that habit. You can decide this is it today. And I think that's what happened at one point. I just woke up one morning. No, I went to bed with this is it mentality and woke up in the morning and I was done. Yeah. So it was, you could say it was drastic, but you remember I had this talk with myself for a long time until I decided it is done. Yeah. So that's one of the things I'm proud of, actually, because I came out of that.
I'm so proud that. And for me, it was always one of those things that I worried about, because like long term, how are we going to stay like this? For how long? So I'm really glad that we're in a space where you carry that weight.
Yeah. When I was talking about that, I remembered that there's also this pride that I found out after a long time, that I had this sense of pride. I should call it a spirit of pride. And it's very subtle. Pride is very, very subtle. It doesn't come to you like I'm boasting, I'm walking around. And the subtle pride is the most dangerous pride that you can have. It is refusing to hear constructive criticism. That is criticism. That is part of pride. Things like being dismissive. Someone is talking and their opinion doesn't matter. And you're actually looking at them talking, but in your head you're having a negative conversation, so that as soon as you get the space, you give your opinion. You have not really heard what they're saying. That is a form of pride. Like, my opinion matters more. For you not to actively listen to someone is like telling them you don't matter. And those are the small things. And it has been ongoing. The change has been ongoing, and it's slow, because with pride you develop these habits from childhood. You start to realize from childhood, I have been doing this thing. It's what I've been learning. So getting rid of them as an adult, it's like getting rid of
everything you've known as in your
whole entire life. Yes. In fact, one of the things is also, how everyone says you should not act a victim. But acting a victim is a part of pride. You're there.
Such a comforting place.
Yes, you're looking for this pity party and all that. It's part of pride. It's time in a marriage, you just need to get to the point and saying, there's this, I'm taking care of it. I don't need to run around telling people how I've taken care of it and it has taken this long. No, it is your responsibility. Your marriage is your responsibility. You go for it head on and work on it. Yeah.
Something I realized also that was very toxic that I came into the marriage with. And I think it's what you called, and I acknowledge it was silent treatment. But I came from a place of, I need time to process what has happened. I need time to think about what I'm feeling, to analyze why I'm feeling this way, before I can even start talking about it. And that would take like 4-5 days. And there would be this tension in the house. Until we sat down and actually had this conversation. And I realized I was not communicating my process.
Yeah.
And I think from there we just agreed, no matter what you're going through, let me know you need time to process. If possible, put a timeline to your process.
Yes.
And then don't allow that process to seep into the other areas of our lives.
Yes.
And I must say that has been a game changer for us.
Oh, completely. No, when you say that, I realized that when you put a timeline on it, then there's a goal, there is something you must hit. And you'll process faster. If you say 3 days, you'll process in those 3 days. If you say a week, that's what will happen. And while you're processing, it gives you time to put that away as you don't have to multitask at that time. You have this thing on its side, on the side, and you're still having your relationship going on. But you both know that there's that issue. We need to sit back. We're coming on Tuesday at 2 p.m. to fix this. It's like a meeting. It sounds so awkward. It sounds weird, but I'll tell you, it works. It works for you to make an appointment to solve a problem you can't solve at that very time.
But even when you can't hit that deadline, for lack of a better word, it's alright to communicate.
Communicate. I'm not ready.
I'm not ready. I'm not there yet. I just need some more time.
Yeah. Funny enough, it's very rare for you not to hit the deadline.
Yes,
it's very rare.
Because also when everything else in your life stays the same, this little thing that's bugging you suddenly becomes an inconvenience. You can't wait to get it out of the way and carry on. And
it becomes really tiny.
Yes.
But a thorn in the
dwelling on this thing.
Foot.
Let me just understand what's happening. Yeah, and quickly move on from it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think
we have grown.
Actually, we're talking and I'm thinking we have figured out communication in one way or the other.
Most of it. I know we've not figured everything out yet, but I believe we've done.
We keep doing.
We are willing to do the work, and the decisions we make, we actually follow up on them.
Yes. Even when we procrastinate, we still get back and do them. And I think that's a very important thing. If you have habits that are lingering in your relationship, and the funny thing is, most of us know the habits that cause damage.
Yep.
And sometimes we intentionally do them in some toxic relationships. People intentionally do these things to get at the other person. Like, I'm going to do this so that they feel hurt. No matter how small it is, it might be not serving them in their favorite cup. It might be not opening the gate, or it might be slamming doors,
dragging your feet.
Yeah.
And then I know people that even involve their kids in these things. Don't be like your father.
Like,
wait, what's going on?
The kid is also looking like,
okay, why
am I not being like daddy?
Yeah.
So it's important to have a form of communication that does not breed contempt.
That's very healthy. It's very, very healthy. I think for me, learning about mental health and how to actually acknowledge when something is toxic, has been very helpful for me. Just even beyond our marriage, my relationship with my mom, it's really been such a helpful tool for me.
And there's been a game changer for you, I must say. And for me too, toxicity goes a long way. It goes into the children. Goes into you.
That's the problem. It seeps into everything. Literally, they say don't bleed on those who didn't cut you.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. You are literally bleeding all over everybody.
Yeah. And everything. Remember how the business was going when we were in that silent mode?
Yeah, because first of all, we are not on the same page. I have no idea what you're working on. You have no idea what I'm working on.
Then we're trying to fix
we are
a business that we're just in Discord. So the home was, we're pretending. It was until we decided, no, this is enough. And we talked about it. And we did what we had to do. So bad habits for me, I find one, it has to go. It has to go. Yeah.
Yes, it should. Because you see, habits grow. And they grow because you're feeding them. I like to think of bad habits like weight. I'm one to know this has been a journey for me. So the way I look at them is it takes you a long time to get a bad habit and for it to stick. And it's going to take you a long time to undo it.
Yes.
It depends on which side of the spectrum you choose to stand and feed.
Yeah.
Am I going to keep overeating and not moving and not doing the work I need to do to lose this weight? Or am I actually going to do the work? Am I going to eat healthier? Am I going to work out? It's really up to you.
Yeah.
Same thing with bad habits. It's
That's
not that
true.
you wake up and say, oh, I recognize I do this whole silent treatment thing. I'm going to stop. Because it's been a part of you for so long,
It's
like your natural reaction at this point.
Yeah.
And until you do the work and catch yourself in that moment and you're like, no, we're not going to go there today.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to sit here and have this painful conversation, and I'll communicate what I need to communicate. If it's time I need, I'll make that known and stop burdening the other person with living in a place that feels like it's a time bomb and is just waiting for you to explode.
Yeah. It's not time to throw the rubbish under the carpet.
Never has been. In marriage, no. There shouldn't be room for those things because that's what keeps piling up.
Yeah.
And then when the lid finally blows off, it's way
It's
too
really
much
bad, yeah.
for people to handle.
We're not saying those are the only bad habits we've had over the time. And there are some that we're still working on and making sure that we get into a place where we fix everything that we see that is toxic to the relationship. And if you have those bad habits, it is you to fix them. No one can. You might need therapy, but even the therapist can't fix you.
If you're not willing to be
fixed. They just find the road that led you to that place, and who knows that road better than yourself? Yeah, so we are looking forward to seeing you again next week. And this is Ray.
And I'm Ali.
Yeah, goodbye.